Apple car update, and I can't help but laugh. If you don't know it, for a long time, Apple's been planning on building a car, and of course, it would be an electric car, right? Now, the Apple Car project.
After 10 years and billions of dollars, Apple has abandoned its plan to create an electric car. Project Titan was intended to rival Tesla's EVs. But after a decade of work, the project never got off the ground, leaving many in the tech industry wondering what happened. So for more on this, let's bring in Ariane Marshall. She is a staff writer for Wired. Okay, what's the deal? 2,000 people working in this unit, 10 years, what happened?
Yeah, it was a long, kind of weird road for the Apple car. As you said, we first heard about this 10 years ago, but they've had a real sort of rotating door of executives at the head of the project. They changed ambitions a number of times, going from wanting to have a really truly driverless car to wanting to have a car with sort of automated features, which is much like many other cars on the road today. And really crucially, they never really found a good auto manufacturing partner, as a lot of other tech giants who have gotten into the auto space have done. So for all those reasons, it seems like this project just really isn't working out for them.
And, you know, a number of companies have kind of embarked on becoming sort of the Tesla killer, the next Tesla. Either they're car companies who are trying to get into the electronics game, or electronic companies that are trying to get into the car game, and nothing has really panned out. Even Tesla isn't really exactly as promised. What is so challenging about putting together an affordable, scalable electric autonomous vehicle in like less than a minute?
Yeah, it's still really early in the game, and I think global automakers are just having a tough time making an entirely new powertrain. Building cars is just really hard. It's really expensive, and I think they're having trouble right now making a car that people want, and crucially, that people can afford.
Do we have any sense, Dan, of how much capital they put forward for this endeavor over the years?
Oh, I mean, it's billions. It could potentially be up to 8 to 10 billion in terms of what they've actually spent. Now, look, for Apple, they've been there before, where they've spent for products that never actually left Apple Park. Look, this was an initiative that Cook, and I think within Apple, they thought it was eventually going to launch. But as Gil talked about, writing was on the wall. And Sarah, right now, and they'll talk about it the shareholder day, all focus on AI. Because as AI comes to the Apple ecosystem, that to me is the golden goose. That's where they monetize. That's the focus.
Is Apple doing the right thing here, entering this market?
No, I don't think so. If I were a shareholder, I'd be very upset because they are currently engaged in a very high margin business. The automobile business, at best, is a very low margin business, and you can't show me one company in the world that to date has made a nickel on electric cars. They are generally money losers, and the only reason that everybody is producing them is because they are necessary to meet European fuel economy regulations and U.S. fuel economy regulations. But there is absolutely no reason to assume that Apple is going to be financially successful in the electric car business.
I'm glad you brought up that aspect of it. It's exactly what I was going to ask. You know, why do an electric car? Do you think they're going to be able to bring some sort of approach to it, given their experience in batteries and consumer devices, that's at all going to change the economics of this in the next couple of years?
No. First of all, Apple has no expertise in batteries. They don't make batteries. The specialized electrochemical companies make batteries, and Apple's going to buy batteries like everybody else. And when it comes to actually making cars, there is no reason to assume that Apple, with no experience, will suddenly do a better job than General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen, Toyota, or Hyundai. So I think this is going to be a gigantic money pit.
Remember that sleek, futuristic Apple car that we thought might be cruising the streets someday? Well, Apple has pulled the plug on the EV, which was codenamed Project Titan, and it's got everybody talking. Some of the whispers, though, are about how this latest news could be in favor of established automakers like Tesla, as well as future EV strategies that Apple may be looking to employ. Let's dive in.
Apple winding down its electric car effort, and CBC's Steve Kovach joins us now at the table with more on all of it. What happened?
Yes, scrapping plans, hitting the brakes, whatever metaphor you want to use. But look, this is all coming, Andrew, after about a decade and billions of dollars in spending. Bloomberg, of course, first broke that news last night. It's been since confirmed all over the place. Look, this decision comes after years of leadership changes and deviations from the original dream Apple had of a self-driving electric car. They were calling it Project Titan internally, with no steering wheel or gas pedals. At one point, Apple even thought it could start selling its car by 2020. Projects created a revolving door, though, because between talent from Tesla and Apple attracted executives from traditional car companies as well, GM, BMW, and the like. But look, nothing has ever shipped in the last decade from this group, and many top execs bolted after just a few years. The last project leader, that was Doug Field. He's famous for making the Tesla Model 3. He left Apple for Ford in 2021, and most recently, the group was run by Kevin Lynch. He was originally hired by Apple to make the Apple Watch. His job is changing now, by the way. He's going to start reporting to Apple's AI boss, John Giannandrea, also known as JG internally. But look, now this is over. The group of approximately 2,000 employees working on this will be effective. Presumably, many of those focused on the car, the hardware of the car engineering, they're likely out of a job. But if there is one bright spot for Apple here, we've been talking about this all morning, some of that talent is going to be moved over to that John Giannandrea group to work on artificial intelligence. And speaking of AI, let's talk about what Tim Cook said in 2017, calling the company's self-driving car project, quote, the mother of AI projects. So there are several ways to look at this. I'll give you two. How about this? The realization that it's better to focus the investment on the technology that's happening today, that would of course be AI, instead of chasing a highly regulated and low profit margin market like the auto market. And perhaps all that time and money spent on self-driving, the AI can apply to whatever magic AI thing Apple is going to be working on and expected to announce later this year. Or you can just look at this as a straight up blunder in Apple's failed attempt to disrupt what Morgan Stanley analysts had been calling to this entire journey a $10 trillion industry that Apple could have tapped into. I think Morgan Stanley was saying they just had to capture 2% of that $10 trillion, bigger than the iPhone business.
So do you look at this as a failure? I mean, we were talking about all of the other things that happened in the last couple of years that they got out of it, right? I mean, they were working on this, not just the EV part of it, but remember, they were trying to do mapping. They actually got maps out of it. They're now in the CarPlay is in 98% of cars. I think
something like that. You can't rent or buy a car without CarPlay.
And I was basically making the argument that the entire time that they were going this route, they were basically hedging the whole effort. If you will.
It's possible, but I mean, you got to look at it in the other way too. They hired real car engineers to work on this. They wanted to build an actual car, and that shifted so many times. Look, I remember Elon Musk saying Tesla's robotaxis are coming next year. That was 5 years ago. So no one has figured this out yet. Waymo, they were early on this. They haven't figured it out. Why spend all that effort putting something that just continues to be 5 to 10 years away?
Apple decided to ditch its latest car, highly anticipated as the iCar, as it was a collective figment of our imagination and never meant to be. This unexpected move left many, including nearly 2,000 employees working on the project, surprised and curious as to what led to this decision. Today we're going to take a deep dive into the potential factors that could have led to this decision, as well as what it could mean for a company like Tesla. And we'll take a critical look at the possibility of Apple deploying a different strategy in its EV pursuit. And who knows? Possibly a merger with an established EV maker is on the cards. Let's take a look.
Bring in a panel here. Gil Luria, DA Davidson, Senior Software Analyst. There's a neutral rating on the stock. Dan Ives, Wedbush Securities Analyst. Of course, our viewers well know. He likes Apple, has a price target of $250. And Dan, just give me your quick take on sort of this reported move out of autos. We've been waiting and waiting. Not that we ever thought we'd actually see a car. And potentially taking some of those resources and putting them into generative AI efforts.
Yeah, they had ripped the Band-Aid off. I mean, it was clear this was putting good money after bad. Investors want to see them focused all in on AI. So I think this was something, it's been a painful period going through in terms of starts and stops on the EV initiatives. But I think the writing was on the wall. The smart move for Cook and Cupertino, focus all in on AI. And I think it's a step forward and puts this chapter in the past.
Gil, your thoughts about the move as well?
When Apple originally tried to get into the car market, they thought that it would be a winner-takes-most market where they could get 50% margin and most of the value of the car would be in the computing platform. That was because Tesla was having such great success and it was easy to extrapolate that. As we sit here today in the EV trough of disillusionment, they see that the car market is still fragmented. Most of the value is not yet in the compute. They can't get to 50% margins there. So they're stepping back and investing in AI, which has far more potential for them, especially in the next few years.
Do we have any sense, Dan, of how much capital they put forward for this endeavor over the years?
Oh, I mean, it's billions. It could potentially be up to 8 to 10 billion in terms of what they've actually spent. Now, look, for Apple, they've been there before where they've spent for products that never actually left Apple Park. Look, this was an initiative that Cook and I think within Apple, they thought it was eventually going to launch. But as Gil talked about, writing was on the wall. And Sarah, right now, and they'll talk about it the shareholder day, all focus on AI. Because as AI comes to the Apple ecosystem, that to me is the golden goose. That's where they monetize. That's the focus.
And you've been talking about that. Of course, Dan, we haven't really seen any true evidence of it. You expect that towards the second half of this year, right? That we're going to actually start to see something when it comes to this effort?
Yeah, it's two components. One is the App Store, the AI App Store. I think they'll start talking about that at WWDC in June, and that's going to be a separate App Store for AI. And then the big one's going to be incorporating AI into iPhone 16. And I think that combo speaks to now what you're seeing across the board in Cupertino, all hands on deck when it comes to AI.
Gil, I want to get back to the shareholder meeting, the annual meeting. You say that there should be a focus perhaps on capital return. Why?
Apple can return a lot more cash than it is right now. Right now, we're talking about maybe 0.5% dividend yield and maybe 2.5% of the market cap that they bought back. They have far more cash flow, far more cash. While they're growing low single digits, they should be returning more cash. And then I want to build on what Dan said about AI. What we need to hear from them isn't just incremental things like photo touch-ups and autocomplete in text. What we want to hear is about an assistant. I want to be able to say, hey, Apple Assistant, book me a restaurant tomorrow night with my boys near the concert venue at around 7 o'clock. And it can do that. And Apple is uniquely positioned to do that. And to Dan's point, it needs to be tied to the iPhone 16. If that can run on previous versions of the iPhone, it'll be hard for them to get a big upgrade cycle from iPhone 16. So those are the kinds of things we're going to be looking for.
Initially envisioned as an autonomous electric vehicle, aiming to compete with the likes of Tesla. However, with the world of autonomous driving technology coming into fruition, it's proven to be a complex and ever-evolving landscape. Technical hurdles and safety concerns have plagued the development of autonomous vehicles, making it more challenging and potentially less lucrative than initially anticipated. With the technology not yet at a commercially viable level, Apple may have decided to cut its losses and shift its focus elsewhere. Also, the electric car market is no longer a niche space. Established automakers and tech giants are all vying for a piece of the pie, making it an incredibly crowded and competitive field. Tesla, the current leader in the EV market, has a significant head start in terms of experience, infrastructure, and brand image. And Apple might have just concluded that entering this already saturated market with a completely new product would be a risky and potentially costly proposition. Hey guys, welcome back to Tesla Tomorrow. As any successful company does, Apple regularly assesses its priorities and allocates resources accordingly. So maybe this EV ambition is not just a priority for the car company. With the EV project encountering various challenges, Apple may have decided to redirect its resources towards areas with a clearer path to success and a higher potential return on investment. This could include focusing on further developing its core products like iPhones and MacBooks, or exploring new ventures in areas like augmented reality or AI. But hold on to your steering wheels, Tesla fans, because this unexpected turn of events might just be good news for the current EV leader. There are several ways Tesla could possibly benefit from this recent turn of events, and we're going to take a look at them in just a moment. But before we do, if you like this type of content, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to keep up to date on everything going on with Tesla. The EV market is like a high-stakes race, and every competitor matters. With Apple out of the picture, Tesla faces one less challenger in its quest for dominance, translating to a potentially larger slice at the pie for Tesla, allowing it to solidify its position as a go-to brand for EVs. Also, think about all the hype surrounding the speculation of this Apple car. It casts a long shadow over the industry, leaving many to wonder how this tech giant with its loyal fan base and deep pockets could shape things up. And now with that shadow gone, Tesla can focus and breathe a little easier, free from the constraints and comparisons brought on by the iCar before it even existed. The cancellation of Project Titan might lead to an unexpected benefit for Tesla, which is a pool of talented engineers and designers suddenly looking for new opportunities, and these individuals with their expertise in the EV space could be a highly attractive option for Tesla, potentially bolstering its workforce and accelerating its own development efforts. And while it's not explicitly stated, Apple's decision to pull the plug on this EV project could be seen as an acknowledgement of the challenges and complexities involved with EV car design and the market. In a way, this validates Tesla's long-standing commitment and perseverance in the space, and it might give the automaker a confidence boost and further solidify its position as a pioneer and innovator in the field. So while Apple's decision to scrap the EV project might not be a direct game changer for Tesla, it certainly removes a potential roadblock and offers some breathing room. And as the saying goes, one person's loss can be another's gain, and in this case, Tesla might just be the beneficiary of this unexpected turn of events in the ever-evolving world of EVs. But let's not get too excited, there may be more twists and turns to come, a hidden strategy you may call it. Actually, there are also speculations that Apple might be eyeing an acquisition of Rivian, the upcoming EV startup known for its sleek R1T truck and upcoming R2S SUV. This potential move throws another curveball into the already dynamic EV market, leaving us wondering how such a situation would impact Tesla, the current king of EVs. Well, first, if Apple does throw its massive financial muscle behind Rivian, it could quickly transform the younger company into a formidable competitor for Tesla. Apple's brand recognition, design expertise, and deep pockets could accelerate Rivian's production capacity, expand its product offerings, and potentially even push boundaries of EV tech. This wouldn't just be a slap in the face for Tesla, it would be a full-fledged brawl for market dominance. Likewise, with two tech giants vying for the top spot, the EV market could experience an innovation bonanza. Both companies known for their commitment to pushing boundaries will be forced to constantly outdo each other, leading to faster development cycles, more advanced features, and ultimately a wider range of choices and potentially lower prices for consumers.
Apple is reportedly ditching its decade-old effort to build an electric vehicle. That's according to Bloomberg. Joining us now, Yahoo Finance's Rick Newman and Dan Howley. Rick, what caught our eye following this story was the fact that you wrote back in 2015 that it would be insane, I believe was your word, to think that we were going to see Apple cars coming off the assembly line. And it took them a while, but you were right. Why did you think it was not going to come to pass? And how does why it actually hasn't come to pass sort of match up with what you expected?
Well, if Apple wants to call me about strategic consulting, I'm willing to take their call. So I'm talking about the complete car. And my point back in 2015, which I think is still completely valid today, is that manufacturing something as complicated as an automobile is just not where Apple needs to go. For two words, profit margin. Apple's profit margin is about 26%. That's mostly, I mean, we know what their devices are, but really that's a lot of intellectual property and a lot of software. That's the business that you want to be in these days. So a profit margins for comparison. So Apple's at 26, that's awesome. Tesla is only at 16% profit margin. Toyota, probably the best run car company in the world, is 10% profit margin. Then GM and Ford are in the single digits. And it's just a complicated business. It's a cyclical business. There's a ton that can go wrong. Even Elon Musk at some point during the last decade, when they were struggling just to make a profit, he said, wow, manufacturing is really hard. So it makes a lot of sense for Apple to be involved with the electronics and the software and the brains of automobiles, because there is a lot of money there. I just never thought it fit with their business model at all to roll automobiles off an assembly line.
So I guess, Rick, the next question I have for you then, if it's not going to be cars, what do you think is the big market that Tim Cook moves into that can actually move the needle for a company the size of Apple? Do you think it's Gen AI related products? Do you think is it healthcare? Is it mixed reality with the Vision Pro, or so maybe some combination of all of those?
So let's let Dan Howley talk about what they might do outside of the car business. But Apple is not going to abandon the car business. They want to be associated with the car, and there's been this big battle underway for more than a decade among all the automakers and Apple and Google and BlackBerry actually makes software for cars. I mean, there are a lot of companies that make software for cars, and they want that as a business line because of everything people do in their cars and everything people do that is associated with their cars. They want to know where you are. They want to know when you're passing their store. They want to be able to send you coupons somehow because they know that you're driving past a McDonald's or something like that. I mean, I'm sure that market is going to develop. So I think Apple will definitely keep trying to go after that business. I mean, again, those are service businesses. That is not bending metal. I mean, that's what Apple does, and I think that's where Apple wants to stay.
A potential Rivian-Apple merger could trigger a talent war in the EV space. Both companies would likely aim to attract the best and brightest minds, leading to the highest salaries that they come to love, and better working conditions for all in the field. And while this may create some short-term instability, it could ultimately benefit the industry as a whole by fostering an excellence and innovation work culture. And if we're honest, Tesla's been somewhat enjoying a comfortable position as the undisputed leader in the EV market, so Apple's potential involvement could be a wake-up call for the company. It would serve as a stark reminder that the future of EVs is not guaranteed and that Tesla's got to keep on its toes and continue innovating to maintain its lead. So no doubt Apple-Rivian mergers could actually shake things up in the EV world, and Tesla would be right in the middle of the storm. Although it may present a pretty significant challenge for other EV makers, it also holds the potential to propel the entire industry forward through a healthy dose of competition and innovation. And while these two giants are at the wheel, the future of electric vehicles is brighter than ever.
Do you believe when they say they're redeploying the resources towards AI? Is that just something you say in this environment where if you just say the words AI anything?
You have to say it. And look at Kevin Lynch, the executive who I mentioned, who was in charge of the project up until yesterday, really. He was there for the Apple Watch, and now he's almost been demoted or maybe sidestepped now. He's reporting under this AI group. It sounds like the move, why let those software engineers go to Microsoft or a competitor, let them work on AI? The real question is, can those learnings that they did, what Cook called the mother of all AI projects, can that be translated to whatever they're going to announce for some kind of AI iOS version that might come this summer?
I think that's the bigger question. And I don't think that Apple is saying that they're deploying resources to AI just for like window dressing purposes, because Apple's never been on that bandwagon. I mean, as all of the other big cap tech stocks have said AI this, AI that, Apple's not done that yet. And so everybody's waiting for June for the developers conference. Do you get any sense that Apple is ready for prime time? I mean, in terms of an AI offering, that's what investors want.
And you got to get. So I was talking to Tim Cook with Jim Cramer on their earnings report just a couple weeks ago, and this is the AI story he's been hammering for the last year and a half as we talk about this. It's built into so many of their products already. Whatever Apple shows on the iPhone that's doing some new AI stuff, we've seen it from Samsung, we've seen it from Huawei and Honor. That stuff has been going on forever. They're just labeling it different. But then the question becomes, is it more of like a marketing thing, kind of like 5G was? Remember the 5G iPhone came out and everyone started upgrading.
So you don't believe that we're going to learn in June or July?
Oh, I do believe.
No, that there's going to be something that's going to feel very much like I can talk to Chat. I talk to ChatGPT right now. The problem with ChatGPT is it can't really go access all of my different apps.
Oh, 100%.
There's no API for it to really do all of the things that I want it to do. Do you think that this will be able to do that? Or do you think that they're just so far behind in terms of being able to build effectively a large language model of their own that can actually do all these things?
It's relatively easy. The photos is such an easy place to talk about, Andrew. So they've been doing this AI stuff for photos for years and years and years. Every time you take a picture with your iPhone, AI is happening to make the picture look better, to get it in focus, and so forth. They're just going to add more to that, I believe. or you can do something like you said, I'll take a photo of the three of you and I say remove Joe from the photo to make it look better, for example.
Wow, that's really something we could do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
wow.
So the
That would- that might make this photo look
my
better.
selfies are already trying to.
Yeah, they make you.
So this is
they
me
jazz you up.
looking better.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah,
But I don't want that. I want to be able to say, make the reservation for whatever, and then it's going to go into OpenTable, and just it's going to go do it.
Yes. That's the hope.
And right now, if you say, if you ask Siri to do that, or even if you ask Siri to like make a count, put something in your
tell you the
calendar half the
accurate
time,
score of the Mets
it won't
game,
necessarily do that. You think that's?
I think that's more of the kind of thing we're going to see in June or in next iteration of iOS.
You believe they're building their own like behind the scenes large language model?
They've talked about it, yeah, and in fact they're doing public research in this. So I mean, they have their models
How far
out there.
behind do you think they are?
That is unclear. What I really want to know is how much they're spending on NVIDIA
chips.
And
Right.
you know, that is what this capex now that they're not spending on the car. How much of that is going to go into generative AI? Because, like I said earlier, that is the technology of now. The car thing has never panned out for anyone, not just Apple, for Waymo, you name it. No one's been able to really do it. There have been a lot of promises. This is happening now. This is achievable now. That's what they're focusing on.
Despite the current speculations in the EV market, Tesla has a solid reputation for making groundbreaking EVs. However, it's also important to remember that the competitive landscape of the EV market is still rapidly evolving, and while Apple's absence might offer some temporary advantages for Tesla's, established automakers and other tech giants are still heavily invested in the space. So Tesla's got to stay focused on continuous innovation, improving product offerings, and expanding its reach to maintain its position as a leader in the electric vehicle revolution. Also, even though the Apple car might not be gracing our roads anytime soon, it is important to remember that companies like Apple are constantly innovating and exploring new possibilities. The cancellation of the project does not necessarily mean that Apple's abandoned the EV market altogether. It simply indicates a shift in strategy and a decision to focus on other key areas of the company where it can leverage its strengths and resources more effectively. So whether or not Apple does restart its EV project or it waits for a better time to join the wagon again, only time will tell what the future holds for the company. But right now, we think it's safe to say that Tesla can take a breather and grow at its own pace without too much pressure, at least not from the Apple car. What do you think about Apple's latest decision in the EV space? Let us know down below, and if you want to know more about what Tesla's been up to over the last few days, go ahead and click on this next video on your screen. See you there.